If I told you a hotel could fly and never land, you wouldn't believe it. But now you're about to see projects that look like science fiction, yet they're already being turned into reality. And it's gonna get even crazier because this is only the first item. Enjoy the video. Sometimes the future doesn't begin with an invention, it begins with one audacious thought. What if we just never come back? That's how the idea of a flying hotel was born, one that doesn't treat landing as an event. It lives in the sky like a separate civilization. In the concept, it's a giant with dozens of engines and capacity on the scale of a small city, thousands of passengers. Inside, it's not seats and blankets, but a full infrastructure, pools, cinemas, gyms, stores. And the cherry on top, the ability to dock with regular airplanes as if you could pull up to a Skyliner the way you pull up to a terminal. Of course, the internet instantly switches into physics professor mode. A monster like that doesn't lift off because of wishful thinking. It depends on aerodynamics and mass. But even skepticism doesn't change the main point. Humanity is already dreaming not about traveling through the sky, but about moving into it. And if a hotel in the air feels too bold, let's come down a bit, toward where luxury has already learned to float. While some build a city in the sky, others take a simpler and more practical step, a city on water. The Pearl Suites format is floating modules you can assemble into entire waterfront neighborhoods for resorts. Not just a room by the sea, but a room that becomes part of the scenery itself. Inside, compact comfort without feeling cramped. Terrace, bathroom, studio bedroom. On top, a roof with glass that can change properties, plus a folding structure so on a good day you can turn it into a sunny deck. For maneuvering, a small electric motor. Quiet, convenient, no fuss. In the comments, people joke, this is when the mortgage is too much and you just sail away. But the idea is serious. Housing is becoming mobile, and that's not a trend, it's the logic of our time. Now imagine these getaways popping up in bays and along coastlines. Then the question stops being luxury and becomes safety. Because water is beautiful, but ruthless. And that's where machines that react faster than humans enter the game. If floating apartments are comfort, a rescue drone is the insurance policy of the future. Japanese engineers proposed a drone with 2 manipulators. Not just a flying camera, but a device that can deliver help where seconds matter. The specs sound confident. About 20 kilograms weight, around 10 kilograms payload, speed up to 60 kilometers per hour. Its job is to quickly deliver a life-saving ring to someone in trouble. It runs for about half an hour on one charge, is designed for bad weather, and can climb to serious altitudes. But the main thing is versatility. Today it saves people on water, tomorrow it helps on high-rise work sites, the day after it moves dangerous objects where humans shouldn't go. This is the kind of tech that stops being a toy and becomes a profession. And since we're talking about water, let's see how luxury tries not just to float on the sea, but to cheat gravity. The world of expensive concepts lives by one rule. The more unbelievable, the more interesting. So here's the idea. A yacht that can be a vessel, but can also rise into the air, supported by 2 giant bladders like dirigibles. Propulsion is electric. Power comes from solar panels. The promised speeds make a regular yacht look like a sightseeing boat. In the air, very fast. On water, calm and steady. Inside, guest cabins, panoramic windows, dining zone, lounge. Yes, it's still a concept, but it shows something important. Luxury is no longer about gold, it's about freedom of movement. And if transport becomes hybrid, then the workplace starts changing too. Offices stop being boxes and become smart capsules. After yacht airships, an office sounds boring, yet that's exactly where future tech takes root fastest. Microsoft once showed a workspace concept where, instead of typical partitions, you get a capsule that adapts to the person. Side panels improve sound and privacy, the rear section can be removed to change the layout, and inside, sensors and cameras detect your posture to tune comfort. Plus a touchscreen, not as a tablet because tablet, but as part of a real work scenario. This isn't just a design toy, it's an attempt to make the office flexible and human. Because the future, it turns out, isn't only speed, it's also the ability to survive a failure. And failures happen more and more often. For example, in power grids. When the electricity goes out, you instantly discover how smart your home really was. That's why backup power systems are becoming the new norm. We're talking about a battery with several kilowatt hours, not symbolic, but genuinely useful. It can charge a smartphone hundreds of times, keep a refrigerator running for hours, power a TV for almost a full day, and keep a router online while everyone around you gets a black screen. Plenty of ports, USB, outlets, outputs for different devices, including scenarios for an EV. There are also wireless pads. Drop your phone, it charges. The best part is recharge speed. 0 to 100% in a couple hours turns the device into everyday confidence. And since we're talking about energy of the future, it's logical to move to what transportation that spends this energy will look like. Electric drivetrains opened a door for designers that internal combustion had kept shut. So concepts appear that look straight out of sci-fi. A two-seater where every element seems to scream, "I'm from the future." The wheels operate independently, each with its own suspension and movement logic. Between the rear wheels, there's even space for a spare tire. Almost a human detail. Like, fantasy is fantasy, but life loves surprises. The headlights rotate and can reveal an additional light module. The design is controversial, but gripping. And it raises a question. Will future SUVs all look this aggressive? Or are we heading toward a whole gallery of bold shapes? Either way, our next stop is Germany, where the future isn't drawn, it's calculated. Here, the bet isn't on looking cool, but on numbers. A Mercedes concept claims over 1,000 kilometers of range on a single charge, and the secret isn't magic batteries, but how the car makes peace with the air. A typical passenger car often has a drag coefficient around 0.3. Here, they're aiming for around 0.17. The car saves energy simply because it doesn't have to fight the air. Inside, eco-origin materials, bamboo, animal-free fabrics, elements made from mushrooms and cactus, plus solar panels. In good conditions, they add a bit of extra range from air and sunlight. That's the future, not we added power, but we stopped wasting. And since we're talking efficiency, there's a type of transport that uses no fuel at all. Its engine is the human body, and that's exactly why it's so mind-blowing. There are machines where the motor sets the records, and then there are capsules where the record is set by muscle, amplified by aerodynamics. Streamlined recumbent bikes look like mini race cars. The rider is almost lying down, the shell is smooth, the materials are light. Over the years, speeds have climbed to numbers that sound like a mistake, 80 to 90 miles per hour on pedals. Cameras and onboard computers help. Guidance, cues, orientation, everything to reduce drag so the human can perform at maximum efficiency. But technology doesn't always chase sport and beauty. Sometimes it goes toward power. Very raw power. At exhibitions, you sometimes see not a finished vehicle, but a demonstration of an approach. Rheinmetall's KF-51 Panther is an idea of a tank as a digital platform. A system where it's not just armor that matters, but network architecture. They claim modern solutions for armament and remote weapon stations, plus an option to use certain classes of loitering munitions. Details are usually discussed carefully, but the message is clear. The crew isn't just 4 people inside, it's a node in a network where data and connectivity become as much a weapon as the gun. After that kind of steel, it feels especially good to switch to tech that makes life softer. For example, at sea, where comfort usually ends with the first wave. Anyone who has ever been in rough seas knows, luxury on water quickly turns into a test. That's why concepts appear, catamarans with active stabilization, where electronics evaluate conditions in real time and adjust the system so the deck stays as level as possible. It's like a premium suspension system, except the sea is harder than any road. Different versions are designed for guests and crew, and the main bonus isn't a pretty interior, but something simple and priceless. Your cup of coffee stays in place. And if the sea became more comfortable, the next logical step isn't the sea, it's the sky. Not a giant hotel this time, but personal aviation, for people who treat time as the main currency. In aviation, from scratch projects are rare, but Hill Helicopters tried exactly that. A new helicopter they want to make more accessible within the segment without turning it into a boring utility machine. They claim about 500 horsepower, cruise speed around 260 kilometers per hour, range up to roughly 140 miles, capacity up to 5 people, plus an emphasis on design and comfort. So the owner feels it's not a compromise, but a premium level machine. And here's where it gets really interesting. As soon as the sky becomes closer to private individuals, cities start dreaming not about wider roads, but a new mobility system. And some companies are already sketching that system. Hyundai presented a vision of a city where transport is assembled like Lego. A special focus is people with limited mobility. Capsules that connect to platforms and become different modes of movement. One base, then it becomes either a personal module or a minibus. Alongside that, vertical takeoff and landing, robots, digital environments, integration into one ecosystem. It sounds like science fiction, but it's a real trend. Not buy a car, but plug into a system. And while big companies reinvent the city, small technological ideas reinvent everyday life, sometimes in the most unexpected ways. Jumping from city systems to something on your feet seems weird, until you remember. Technology first changes infrastructure, then reaches clothing and habits. Fully 3D printed sneakers look like art objects, thin, flexible, yet durable. The material combines elasticity and toughness, and the design is inspired by mythical creatures, Yeti, Nessie, Bigfoot. The funniest detail, the sole leaves footprints that resemble a monster track. And yes, it's not a joke. Sometimes legends appear not in the forest, but in a fashion workshop. But there's something more important than shoes and myths: water. And when even water becomes a challenge, tech offers a solution straight out of thin air. In the age of digital services, it's paradoxically hard sometimes to find good drinking water. That's why devices that extract water from air are becoming more appealing. They produce a few liters per day, clean, mineralized, with balanced pH. A built-in UV sterilizer increases safety, filters remove harmful impurities, and the device also cleans the air and maintains comfortable humidity. Marketing loves to promise skin like you're 20, but even without that, the value is obvious: autonomy. And as homes become more autonomous, new habits appear, like controlling tech not with a mouse, but with gestures. If you've ever watched pros use hotkeys, you know a standard keyboard is a compromise. That's why hybrids appear: programmable keys, a joystick, switches that feel like a real control panel. The main feature is customization: rearrange elements, tune hand position, save profiles. There are versions for right-handed and left-handed users. This isn't just for gamers, it's about control becoming personal. And when control is personal, it makes sense that a helper appears nearby, one that carries things and interacts with people. Delivery robots and waiter robots are becoming normal, but this format is interesting because it combines payload capacity with social behavior. It can carry serious weight, work long on one charge, and still not feel like a scary hunk of metal. Obstacle scanning detects even low objects and constantly updates a map of the surroundings. Then comes the human side: voice reactions, funny sounds, emotions, so people perceive it as friendly. And that takes us to the next layer of the future. Not robots themselves, but interfaces that help humans see data directly inside reality without holding screens. Augmented reality in games is still maturing, but in transportation, it already brings real value. Imagine data displayed directly over what you're seeing: trajectory guidance, road situation, traffic light timing. The idea expands further. Such interfaces can appear not only in cars, but in marine and aviation tech, and maybe even in buildings. You look out the window and get an info layer: weather, warning, system status. This is a future where the screen doesn't get in the way. It becomes part of your vision. And if we're talking about environments where humans operate at the edge of capability, we can't ignore places where technology literally sustains life: the poles. Polar vehicles aren't about driving. They're about surviving and working. A concept of an all-terrain station is built around modularity: a tractor up front, then living and research sections behind, configured to the mission. The plan includes electric drive and fuel cells, with equipment on top including panels. The project was designed with scientific requirements and environmental responsibility in mind. because in such regions, the cost of a mistake is enormous. And here's what's interesting. As tech becomes smarter and more autonomous in extreme conditions, it also miniaturizes, turning into gadgets you wear on your finger. The best technology is the kind you barely feel. A Swiss ring controls your cursor with finger gestures, scrolling, clicks, standard actions, without a mouse or touchpad. Bluetooth, water resistance, a full day of use works for both right-handed and left-handed users. One nuance: it works best on a flat, uniform surface to avoid mistakes. It's a small sign of a big trend. Control is moving into gestures, and if control becomes more natural, it follows that we'll enhance the body more gently, not with iron armor, but with assistants that reduce strain. A Japanese exoskeleton does a simple thing. It reduces impact load and stress on joints when running or walking long distances. That's especially interesting for jobs that involve constant movement. Couriers, postal workers, delivery riders. The company is known for strength-boosting solutions, like helping lift heavy loads, but this version is about endurance and health, when the device absorbs part of the impact for you. And if an exoskeleton helps your legs, the next logic is to help your time. Because people get tired not only physically, but from the road itself, which means we return to the sky again, this time as a city. Air taxis promise to compress distance, vertical takeoff and landing, a few passengers, control modes from manual to autopilot, range depending on the model, from city hops to longer routes. These aircraft are meant for both people and cargo, because logistics has become a race too, and the main currency here isn't money, it's time. But virtual worlds also demand time and space, and that's where a strange yet logical thing appears: shoes for virtual walking. You're standing in a room, but walking through a huge virtual world. Roller-based boots with stabilization let you simulate walking without turning you into a skater. Carbon materials mounted over regular shoes, anti-motion sickness tech. It's for VR scenarios where a joystick no longer delivers immersion. Virtual spaces stretch for miles, and steps make it feel real. And once we start touching virtual worlds with our feet, we naturally want to touch them with our hands. That's where technologies arrive that literally create the feeling of touch in the air. But first, a quick stop in ordinary life, because the future always enters daily routines, and sometimes through a mirror. A hair coloring device lets you choose a shade in an app, prepare the dye, and run it through your hair. A brush makes hundreds of strokes per minute so the color spreads evenly. Replaceable cartridges, dozens of shades, more predictable results. It's about control, convenience, and salon quality at home. And if such procedures automate everyday life, digital worlds automate sensations too, so virtual reality becomes almost physical. Ultrasound tech creates the sensation of touch in midair. You feel a virtual object even though there's nothing in your hands. Working distance is several meters. Wide angle, the device is compact and not heavy. Through apps, you can connect multiple panels to interact at a distance. Games, handshakes, shared actions. It's a step toward a world where distance stops being empty space and becomes a medium for interaction. And now we return to design, because as soon as tech unlocks new possibilities, designers immediately draw shapes that used to be impossible. The Alpine A4810 concept isn't on sale tomorrow. It's a showcase of ideas, inspired by Formula One, hydrogen themes, carbon fiber, and lines that seem built for speed. The name references the height of Mont Blanc, 4,810 meters, a symbol emphasizing the brand's Alpine identity. It's a demonstration from future designers and a tribute to heritage. And these things always have a purpose. They show what aesthetics can become once technology stops limiting form. But sometimes concepts go the other direction, not toward aggression, but comfort. And surprisingly, that's closer to the real market. Renault once showed a concept that challenges the cliché, a concept car must be sporty. A transparent roof creates a sense of space. The seats fold to turn the cabin into a relaxation zone. The doors open toward each other, front forward, rear backward, with no B-pillar, creating the effect of a massive entrance. The motor is modest, the footprint compact, the idea simple. Most people care more about comfort than showing off. And in that same spirit, screen technology evolves too. First it seems weird, then it becomes normal, and then you can't imagine how you lived without it. Flexible OLED/AMOLED displays point to a new format. Thin, compact, able to expand. That lowers the barrier to mass adoption and unlocks device shapes where the screen isn't a rigid rectangle but an adaptive surface. For the user, it means one thing: more screen where it's needed and less body for the sake of body. In a few years, the classic phone brick may look as outdated as a keypad phone next to a smartphone. That was today's episode. If you enjoyed it, hit like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. There's a lot of great content ahead. Thanks for watching, and check out our previous incredible episodes.